You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic bootcamp, Moveville University, Pure Chiro Notes, Dr. Alok Trivedi, the Black Diamond Club, Element Mattresses, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Vita Chiropractic, the Universal Traction System, MedZone, Vantage Point Marketing, and Imaging Services. Let's hustle.
All right, guys, welcome to episode 36 of Chiro Hustle. I'm your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's Jim Chester.
So today's guest is Jessica Harden, and she has a really awesome story about graduating and growing with the AMPed group, and now she launched her own program called Flight. So stay tuned and listen to this awesome episode. So, Jessica, what's your chiropractic story, and what influenced you to become a chiropractor? And on top of that, what makes you unique in the chiropractic world?
Wow, those are a lot of questions. So
I know, I just threw them right at you.
You did, to start out with. You know what's interesting? I know a great number of people start chiropractic school with a chiropractic story. That was certainly not the case for me. I come from a very medically minded family, and I actually got introduced to chiropractic because someone randomly suggested that I should try to go to chiropractic school. And to be honest, even before that, I had actually had every intention of going to medical school, did an internship that turned me away from that career choice, looked into nursing, and I literally had everything lined up to go to nursing school, including my undergrad, my master's, and guaranteed employment. And this random suggestion came my way. I started doing research and decided, you know what, I can always go back to nursing school, and I decided to try chiropractic school first. And it's so interesting because I didn't get my story till I was in graduate school, and my biggest victory was through, improvement in my immune system function, which I always thought was just something I always had to have. And, fast forward, getting to where I am now, I could not even imagine someone having a life without chiropractic involved in it because of how much vibrancy it's brought to my health, and also seeing it in my husband's as well. Now, rewinding to a little bit too is, I think what's been so interesting along this journey as well is the more that I learn about chiropractic, the more it gets me excited about the potential of what we could see transforming the health in our community. And I feel that, when we don't push to get this message out there, there's so many people that are just missing out on something they literally are just in the case that I had, thinking that that's just the way it has to be, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I think that one thing that makes me a little bit unique in this profession is I've always been an individual that has gone after and thrown myself into anything and everything to help people and serve people. And, I had that mentality when I first originally thought I was going to go to med school. And of course that carried through, in the shift of careers. And when I look back at this too, every step of my journey, I've had my hand now in, many individuals know that I'm heavily involved with AMPed. I'm a mentor. I've worked with students and young doctors across the nation and spoken at many different places. So having my hand in mentorship. I also have a huge hand in research. So we've published about 4 studies. We have 2 more in the works right now. And I firmly believe that we all need to dedicate ourselves to producing more subluxation-based research. So, and then transitioning more recently, we just started launching a new organization called Flight, which stands for Female Leaders Inspiring Greatness, Harmony, and Tenacity. And it's through each of these chapters, not only, pushing to help serve the people in my community, but also giving back to our profession. And in all elements of my journey and my career, I've truly felt like I've thrown everything I've had into all these different elements because there's such a great need. And, I come from the mindset, if it's got to be done, then I might as well be the one to start doing it. Now, I think that, if you want to go far, you have to take people with you. So I've also been a huge proponent of being a part of a community and staying connected chiropractically to so many different resources as well. So it's definitely been an interesting adventure, and to see how these individual chapters have evolved in just a short period of time.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I was hanging on to every word that you said. And it was really as good as an answer as the powerful questions that led into this podcast interview. So I generally appreciate the idea that you got right out of school and got busy. And you're empowering the woman chiropractor, and that's a lot of what we're doing the first part of the year. We're focusing solely on women chiropractors, and you happen to be one of the people that everybody was like, hey, you have to have Jessica on as a guest. And, I think it's really cool that you jumped right in and got involved with the AMPed group. I think that the AMPed group definitely helps a lot of young chiropractors jump out of school and find that success that everybody's looking for immediately. And I think it's really cool that you're being more of a leader in this realm for the women chiropractor with Flight. So we're going to jump into the next question with you. And
so, do you have any mantras or quotes that help you with your commitment as a chiropractor?
Actually, I do, and it's there's a quote that had always spoken to me when I first graduated, and it's kind of carried through. And in a topic I've been studying on more recently, I think this ties into it, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a moment. But it's an Ayn Rand quote, and she said, "Do not let your fire go out, sparked by irreplaceable spark in the hopeless swamps of the not quite, the not yet, and the not at all. Do not let the hero in your soul perish in lonely frustration for the life you deserved and have never been able to reach. The world you desire can be won. It exists. It is real. It is possible. It's yours." And that quote spoke very strongly to me, because anybody that's listening to this currently is going to, and that is an entrepreneur, they are going to identify with that, because it takes a lot of grit and tenacity to push through and to do this. We don't do it because it's easy. We do it because we feel that it's necessary, and we feel that, it's our way and our purpose to be able to give back to, our brothers and sisters in this world. And so I really felt that spoke strongly in so many capacities through. And, talking about what's kind of fueling me through this journey, especially in giving back to chiropractic and making sure that I serve my nearby communities, is a concept I've been studying a little bit more, and it comes from Angela Duckworth, and she's a leading researcher when it comes to this concept called grit. And one of the things she talks about with grit is that it is passion and perseverance put together to accomplish long-term goals. And with this concept called grit, you're asking yourself this question, if I'm passionate about something, how do I continue to stroke that passion? How do I continue to build that passion? And there is a fascinating sentence she writes in her book, and I'm going to quote this too as well. And it said, "To remain passionate for your work, it requires a little bit of discovery followed by lots of development and a lifetime of deepening." And so there's something to be said about those elements, because you can be fascinated by chiropractic. We see it in our practice members. They're so energized at the potential of a new hope, a new beginning, and a new opportunity. And so, you're feeling that funnel, but then how do you continue to invest in their passion? And I think, you put in elements of little bit of discovery. Did you know that, chiropractic, that people with these symptoms have seen some resolvement with this symptom or that symptom? And then talking about followed by lots of development, well, you're continually working through that education process too as well. And then getting to the deepening part is you're anchoring in, you're instilling that lifelong vision of what could potentially not only be for their health, but their family's health as well. And we could all speak that into our work as well, as if you're, a chiropractor, or maybe you serve a industry that can serve chiropractic, you're asking yourself these questions of how do I remain excited about my work? And I think that is where some problems come from coming out of school. Is you get started, you get the ball rolling, and then slowly, little by little, just like Ayn Rand says, is that spark starts to go out. And it's never an overnight thing. I hardly ever hear people that get out of our profession that, it was just one night I woke up and decided I didn't want to do it anymore. No, it's typically always a series of small events that accumulate over time that kills their drive and their passion for it. And it's a shame, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm a firm believer that to continue to ensure that that doesn't happen is you have to have mentorship, and you have to have a community. And if you can have those two elements together, you have more resources at your fingertips to be able to actually give yourself the fuel and the drive to be able to push through and do these amazing things that you want to accomplish for your life and your purpose. And it's also interesting too as well when you talk about developing this community around you and talking about resources specifically. There's an amazing phrase that one of my mentors tells me, and he says, it's not a resource problem, it's a resourcefulness problem. And so when you look at if you don't have the right mentorship in your life or the right community, how could you ever know how to tap into the resources that are available out there? And I think that comes from being able to connect with all these amazing organizations out there that we have in our profession that does equip us to be able to do the things that we can do.
Yeah, everything that you said there reminds me of, the success that, if you don't find the success, the burden of lack of success becomes heavy.
Yes.
And I think that when people aren't feeling good about what they're experts in, the burden of not succeeding becomes that much more, disturbing actually. And I think it's really cool that you're able to become transparent and say, hey, success isn't easy. You have to fight hard for it all the time, and you have to find good mentors around you. You have to find good systems to plug yourselves into. So let's rewind just a little bit and talk a little bit about AMPed and how that prepared you, and a little bit about how you built your life into that group.
So I've actually been friends with Dr. Jeremy Hess and Dr. Michael Viscarelli for many years now. I almost don't want to do the math now because it's been quite some time. I'm only 5 years into practice, but I've known them for longer than that. And I think what has been fascinating through this journey too, that's allowed me to achieve success, speaking specifically through practice, is because the individuals in this group can paint a vision that can be bigger than what you can imagine for yourself. We're all movers and shakers. We all are self-driven. We all want to see amazing things happen, not only in our lives, but in the people that travel with us. And I think when you have that kind of vibe and energy, it can be very attractive. And sometimes that energy can fuel individuals too as well. And so I think that energy is what continually kept me invested into making sure that I always stayed in contact, and I was always there at every conference, and I paid attention to all the modules that are in place and all the groups and Facebook secret group that they have with the organization too, and just staying plugged in continuously. And I feel that the reason why we're seeing such a huge success in some of these young offices now is because we're able to build that community and that support system and be able to put basically resources into the fingertips of these individuals. And to see that happen, it just, when you see someone that you're investing in become is successful, it gives you a sense of energy where you want to go and do even more than what you're already doing. I can't explain that, but for those of you that mentor another doctor, another office, you know that energy I'm talking about. It's almost like addictive, so to speak, that you just want to give more and do more. And I think that's one of the amazing things that I've seen between the leadership and mentorship team and those people that have partnered with AMPed, and seeing that grow over time in the last few years.
So did you take some of those success principles from AMPed and implement that into your flight program?
Yes, some of them I did. So one of the things that I truly appreciated about AMPed was the sense that it wasn't just one person's opinion. It was a community of opinions that came together, and you could see the common threads that were achieving success. Dr. Michael and Dr. Hess talk about this all the time. They say, they have certain procedures and techniques that they're using in their office, and they've been tested in all different scenarios across the country, and they work. So they know that these are successful procedures because they've been tested in so many different offices. Well, when it comes to flight, it's not just my opinion. One of the things that I've really loved doing with flight is diving into questions that I'm asked all the time, and to be frank, the questions I've asked myself. And so one of the things we do with flight is we bring all these different voices of these women in different seasons of life together. So we are bringing women that have had a kid while they were opening their office. We've had women that are married or single. We've had different ladies in just different capacities. And here's the amazing thing. All of these women that have spoken on stage or through flight are successful. And I just think it's amazing that we can now start to bring those different examples together, because here's the problem that I'm noticing. It's not that a lady that goes to become a chiropractor and open her own office has less chance of success than a gentleman. It's not that. The problem is it's the fact of vision. And I feel like because we don't see enough examples, I'm referencing women in chiropractic school right now, because they don't see enough examples, they doubt whether it will work out for them. And I feel that with the more examples and differences that we paint and still show that there's success there, I feel that that is just going to be confirmation for these ladies who may be on the fence between eventually having their own practice or associating, and either direction, it's fine. It's just depending on what their specific journey is. But just that concept of being successful and seeing all those examples just provides continual confirmation that they can do it. And with the way things are changing right now, I mean, it's much needed right now.
So what would you be able to accomplish if more people knew about and utilized flight?
That is a really great question. And I feel that with some of the momentum that's starting to come into it, I think one of the things that we would be able to accomplish is, people that are already successful need to reach out and to these younger offices, and there needs to be a stronger support system, which is happening in more realms than we're even speaking about today. And we're seeing it across, Dr. Kathy's doing a great deal with trying to get women speakers on stage. But I think one of the biggest things that would help us as Flight with its mission is just being connected and coming together and being available and ready to plug in or to receive. Because I think the thing is there's so many excuses and things, and this goes not only just for a Flight, but just in all different mentorship opportunities. You hear about these events that you can partner with, but you make an excuse not to go to XYZ event. And the reason you do that is you say, because I'm too busy, or I don't have enough time, or, maybe it costs too much, or whatever the excuse is. And the problem is, I really firmly believe that you should seek wisdom no matter what the cost. And so if you have a plethora of different women coming together and speaking about so many different issues that you could potentially have questions about, why wouldn't you want to partner with it? And so I think the biggest thing is being willing to mentor and also being willing to step into that mentorship. So I think it comes from both directions. And I think that's where, when we talk about these other industries that I've been speaking with in these capacities and talking about these very common questions that we're asking, like, how do you manage practice and family life? I mean, these are questions that are across multiple industries. And I had an attorney that came to visit one of our Flight conferences, and one of the very things she told me, she said, look, the things that you spoke about on stage are the very things that we ask all the time in my industry. And she said, it's absolutely amazing, and it's encouraging to know that it's not just because of what we do, it's the concept in general. So
where do you see the chiropractic profession going in the next 20 years?
Speaking from the context of what I've seen happen with women in chiropractic, I think that's just going to continue to grow. The foundation's already been laid. There's been work, we're just now hearing more about it in the last year, or at least I feel like I'm hearing more about it in the last year. I think that's going to continue to grow, but there's been so much work done prior to that now we're starting to see all of that start to surface. I think we're going to see a lot more women more visually as far as social media or being able to be present on these stages. So we're definitely going to see that transition. And also, I firmly believe we're just going to see a great opportunity develop and come about from the fact of seeing how the enrollment is changing in chiropractic school, seeing more women stepping into the field and being a louder voice in the profession too as well. And so, speaking for the sake of chiropractic, I think it's only going to help chiropractic grow and connect better and be able to find the individuals that so desperately needed a part of their life and their lifestyle.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic bootcamp, Movewell University, Pure Chiro Notes, Dr. Alok Trivedi, the Black Diamond Club, Element Mattresses, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, Vita Chiropractic, the Universal Traction System, MedZone, Vantage Point Marketing, and Imaging Services. Let's hustle. Yeah, you mentioned something there that leads me into the next question. You said presence on social media. And the question I have for you is, what key marketing strategies do you do? And how do you market yourself with either traditional or social? And what do you find works best?
So if we're talking in the realms of social media, I love the aspects that Facebook can provide. I'm not a big Instagram person, to be honest. I'm just being transparent here. But Facebook Live videos have been great. Also doing my own videos. I've just launched a whole series called Flight Fundamentals. It's a monthly video that's free. We've been sending it out to the attendees that have come to our conferences, and they're free to share with others. But just starting to dive into some of these basic concepts just to kind of keep everybody fresh, kind of this quick fuel through these months as well. Another thing, speaking more specifically practice and office-wise, call me old school, but I am, as you can tell from my personality, I'm big on relationship and connection. And I truly feel that it doesn't have to be something innate. It could be something that can be learned. And so over time, I feel like I've really done study on how to build that connection and trust, because, it takes you so far in, being able to serve your community. I mean, you take care of one person and they trust you with, not only their friends and their family, but, other generations thereafter. And so I think that's a really important component. And I think what, I say, they call me old school. I think some people don't look to that immediately because it isn't a quick return. It's not just because you invest that time and you serve, humbly, and you invest in the relationship portion, you don't necessarily see the referral come in like tomorrow. But the ability of the practice members that connect with you in the future because of the relationship that you establish with that first person, they're so much stronger. And the conversations have only gotten easier and easier in my practice as we've been continuing on, because we've done so much work in making sure our practice members are not just practice members, but they're also family to us too as well. And I truly feel that's a huge strength of mine and the team I have in being able to put that together. And again, I've emphasized community already in our conversation, but when you build a sense of community and connection, there's almost like an attractive force to it. So regardless of the specifics or the conversation or the action or the service, it's just that that sense of connecting to a community that sometimes can drive people to, remain committed to something bigger than themselves.
So you mentioned community a lot. What kind of things do you do? Are you doing like BNI? Are you doing screening events? Are you doing talks or dinners? What are you looking towards as to building your community besides the referral aspect?
Yeah, so we always we're still doing screenings. We've done health talks too as well, and talking about networking with healthcare professionals and also with small business owners. Small business is a huge thing right now, so obviously we try to creatively find ways to give back to small businesses so that we can obviously lift their business up, but in turn, in supporting them, they want to support our mission to help our community too as well. So we've done things like ladies' nights out. We've involved them in, like, if it's a small business, food industry kind of business, then getting them involved with maybe doing the lunch part of our health talks. We've also networked small businesses with other charity events we've done too as well, like whether it's through small donations or pumping them up through live videos and, tagging it back to our office page as well. So we try to be creative in how we build that community, but that's a big part of it. And if it's a healthcare professional, trying to find ways that we can support each other in our missions and moving forward. Because, truth be told, when you build these relationships too, some people aren't going to fit your train as much as others. So, being able to find those people to build deeper roots with and build that foundation is one thing that's really key.
So what's your favorite app or technology to keep you engaged with your audience?
I definitely am a fan of Facebook, but currently my practice members, one that I've really appreciated that's helped me leverage myself and my time. We use a platform called Sked in our office, and that is a huge technology piece that's helped us become more keen to be able to make chiropractic convenient and be able to free us up to continue to feed into our current practice members that are in that office presently too. Those of you may be familiar, Sked is a scheduling system. It's an app like practice members can download on their phone, and they can literally manage their appointments accordingly, and we can push notifications and messages out to them and have them automated and not have to, continually manually input everything. So it's been a huge freeing application that's allowed us to kind of make sure that our practice members stay on target to get the results they're looking for, but also freeing us up so that we can focus on our current practice members, so we can build that connection and relationship with them when they're in our practice.
Yeah, I saw early on when Michael had a push for the Sched app, and I know Jeremy was pushing it for a while as well. I'm glad to see that it's actually doing well for practice members to use.
Yeah, and I think the biggest feedback we get from practice members in regards to the Sched app is, it basically has eliminated any conversation of, oh, well, it wasn't convenient for me to come in. If I, could come in like 30 minutes later or 15. I mean, I kid you not, with this app, I've had practice members reschedule their appointment 10 times in one day, and it never required my team or me to be wasting time on the phone. It's a huge luxury. And so for them to have that luxury of be able to I can move this appointment here and there and not have to worry about trying to connect with us on the phone, they're happier for it. It's a convenience factor for us, but also it just helps them, make sure that they're going to get the results they want, because no one likes to pay all this money and waste it not getting the results they're looking for. So I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. I think when you can actually take an idea like that and actually put it to implementation phase and then actually make it user-friendly and actually something that people enjoy doing, I think that's the recipe for genius when it comes to helping grow practices. And, honestly, I worked in an office for 5.5 years, and if we could have just had to the point where people weren't calling and scheduling and rescheduling and we had to call them and see where they were type things, it would have freed up so much time for maybe that person that's up there at the front desk scheduling more events.
Exactly, and that is the whole point. And what's fascinating about the developers of Sched is they're still trying to get feedback as to how to make the app better or more be a better assistance to practice members and practices. So they're still brainstorming new ventures and new ideas to market or to be able to create the app to be more convenience for both parties. And so, though they have the platform they have currently, it works great, they're still looking to make it better and more convenient for everybody. So I think that's what caught our interest in, continuing to work with Sched and give them feedback, is it's only going to get better as time goes on. And currently right now, we haven't really had anything that helped keep us functional and so automated at the same time. So it's been a huge game changer within our office.
Yeah, that's super cool. It's really interesting because, times have changed and the conversations that we used to have are not existing at the same way because of how technology actually comes in and makes things easier for us. It can busy us up, don't get me wrong, but if you have something exact that is right to the point, like what you're talking about, it really does help the whole function of a practice just change.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more with that.
So in your spare time, what kind of things do you like to listen to or read?
So I've been doing more reading this past year and a half, and some of the authors that I've been reading or listening to YouTube videos or their other media presence that they have. Sheryl Sandberg's one of them. Brene Brown's a huge one. And more recently, and I mentioned her previously, just a few minutes ago, Angela Duckworth. All of those ladies, they have done tons of research and they're diving into these concepts that I'm right now looking into more. And so I've been really diving into their material. Another huge resource for me is my personal development coach, Ronnie Doss. He has incredible material. He has different video series that you can subscribe to, and it's really inexpensive. It is literally not costly whatsoever. I know people that spend tens of thousands of dollars on personal development or videos or subscriptions and stuff, and it's not even anywhere near that. I specifically love his material to listen to because I'm a firm believer that when it comes to going into your practice every day, it is a battlefield of the mind. And is that if your headspace is not correct and you're not thinking in the right realms, then obviously you're limiting your capacity to serve and your ability to grow. And one of the great things that he does in his material, if you've listened to Ronnie Doss's work, he really tries to push the envelope onto increasing your capacity to understand your potential and what you're capable of doing, and basically, expanding your ability to be able to not take things personally and grow outside of your comfort zones. And I feel that there's a lot of things put in place, and there's one concept he talks about a lot, and he talks about lenses. And he says, everybody's born with lenses, and there's thousands and thousands of lenses. And he says, for instance, the problem with these lenses, he says, take an example of a person who has blue lenses on, and they look at a person with a white shirt. That person says to the other one, hey, your shirt's blue. Well, the person wearing the white shirt's like, well, no, it's not, it's white. And then they get in an argument because of the fact that this person's just wearing a lens and they don't even know it. And so he tries to detect where those lenses are, take them off, so that we can open up our ability to be able to see things in our perspective. And I feel that because we do that every single day with our practice members, it's a huge resource to be able to not only, help assist you in your journey, but also helping others see what chiropractic's potential could be for their health as well.
Yeah, that blows me away. Just thinking about that, it's a lot about how we look at ourselves too, and what lens we allow ourselves to look at each other too. And it almost builds our identity when we have the analogy that like kind of ties it together for us. It blows up perspective kind of.
It does, and I can say I've been working with, I've known Ronnie for probably about 2.5 years now, and my perception of situations that arise, like my interpretation of facts and what they mean to me, is entirely different than where it was 2 years ago. And it's only served me in my ability to be able to focus on what's important and walk away from something that just doesn't matter. And I think that it's a huge blessing to be able to recognize that now and be able to actually do that.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've figured a lot of stuff out since you graduated. You said 5 years ago?
Yes,
and,
2012.
and what would you, maybe, I'm going to go off script a little bit with you just because I think that there's still more for us to get off the bone of this conversation. But when you think about somebody that's coming out of school and they might not be doing being a part of the AMPed group, or they don't have any real direction, or maybe they're their first year in practice and they're kind of stumbling. What are some things that you might share with them to help them out?
So first of all, make sure you're not being quiet. I know that sometimes when things get bad, sometimes something called shame can set in, and embarrassment, and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. All entrepreneurs have struggles, and all people just know that it's normal to have those experiences.
Amen.
The thing is,
Amen.
Take Instagram live, right?
Amen.
But I think that's what happens sometimes is when they first get out, when these feelings set in, they think they've messed up and there's no return, or they think that there's no way out of it, or they're so embarrassed they won't reach out. And I think that is the worst thing you can do. And sometimes when you fall flat on your face, it's not just about picking yourself up, but go and find the person that will give you that extra oomph to try to get you back on your feet. Because, I mean, on your own, you may be able to get back to your knees, but that other person may be able to get you on your feet. So I think that is probably the biggest thing I can encourage people that, maybe when they got out, they didn't connect with one group or another, or they didn't have any mentorship, but now they may be kind of, maybe doubting things or struggling or whatever that situation may be. I think that's a huge funnel, and to try to get reconnected with a group that matches that funnel, matches their belief system and what they want to accomplish, and just kind of working on it, not only just like maybe, don't just join a group and start paying and not do anything with it. Like, go get involved in a group and be engaged. Yeah, that's the problem is, we have so many people in chiropractic that are like, oh, because I heard that this was great, I'm just going to sign up for it. And they don't do anything with it. And I think that's a shame. And it's honestly a waste of money and your time. So if you're one of those, maybe you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, okay, I've been struggling for a while, and, I'm kind of doubting, like, whether this was the right, profession for me even. That's your go-to of, like, I need to get connected with a group, and I need to start diving in and starting to rub elbows with people again and find out how I can build more relationships with them so they can fuel me up so I can keep doing what I want to do. And there's a reason everybody gets into chiropractic. There's a reason everybody gets out the profession and wants to help people and serve people. It's just a matter of making sure that you create a funnel that continually fuels you through that.
Amen. And everything you said, I think is somebody out there listens to this, maybe it's just one person that gets it, but they're gonna resonate with that message. And we were driving around with our good friend, our chiropractor that was in Denver, Dr. Rick Kirkpatrick, and we were listening to some motivational affirmations, and one of the ones was, if you fall down 9 times, get up 10.
Amen. Amen. And some of us fall down even more than that, but that's okay. And that's the cool thing about, I think, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, and I think this is why some of us get addicted to it and have multiple businesses and keep going. It's almost like a rush to see something that you've created come to fruition and seeing that expression of yourself make a difference. And, if you're not making sure that, if you're not having something that's mission focused, something that's bigger yourself, something that's a purpose, is, and understanding that all these mistakes you can make along the way are a part of the process of being able to get to that, then you're going to miss out on all the funny moments. And sometimes you just have to be able to laugh at yourself and say, well, that was just the cost of another education, and just keep on moving. And I think that's extremely vital when you get into this, is just knowing things are going to happen. It's just a part of that process.
But Jessica, you have to admit, self-esteem is something, even if you're a doctor, that is a fragile ice to walk on. And, it sounds like you've gone through those uncomfortable stages as well. Maybe somebody's going through that uncomfortable stage, or they have poor self-esteem. I think that anything that you could share with them, I think, is going to help them realize that it's not... the sharks aren't around you, and if you get around good quality people, then you learn how to succeed. And I think that's one of the key things to this podcast with you, is what you just said. You never know what it does for you when you do something and you create something awesome. And when you are a serial entrepreneur, or whatever it might be, when you actually jump into something and you commit to it, like this podcast. 4 months ago, it was just an idea I had for 2 years. And then, Luke and I, we started talking about, how to implement more, value for the chiropractic world. And we're like, let's just do it. Let's start tomorrow. So sometimes,
absolutely.
Sometimes you just have to start.
I love you said, let's just start tomorrow. See, sometimes that's all it takes to finally get people to move forward. And sometimes just making that one small choice can change the trajectory of what direction you head. And so sometimes I think we say, well, I've got to get everything figured out before I take that step. That is I'm going to refrain from speaking any French here. That is just not true, And I feel like that sometimes keeps us from just taking a step. Sometimes just throwing yourself into something is the best thing that you can do, and just keep swimming until you finally start to float, And I think that's where, if you don't just start somewhere, then you never will start.
Yeah, and then you fall into that cliche statement, paralysis by analysis, and then you start judging yourself because you haven't pulled the trigger to go forward.
Yep.
And then the best given idea that you ever had goes to the notebook and never gets opened up again.
Yep, that's another one.
Well, Jessica, we're getting towards the end of our program today. Did you have any links, websites, social media pages you wanted to share with our listeners?
Absolutely. So Flight has just established Flight Fundamentals, which can be accessed through ampednow.com/flight-fundamentals. And you can access that. We've got some resources on there from our last conference that are accessible to as well. You can always private message me through Facebook and get connected that way. Maybe you have more questions, or maybe you just want to find a way to get connected in other means. I've always tried to respond to all of my messages if I can, as quickly as I can. And then, of course, if obviously with AMPed as well, I'm always available to answer any questions in regards to that mentorship program and what we've seen through working with countless students and doctors through that organization.
Fantastic. So is there anything you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to ask you yet?
Honestly, I think anybody that's listening today, if they've had any doubt about where they're sitting right now as a chiropractor, an entrepreneur, or if they've had any doubt about where they are on that journey, I hope they just feel encouraged and they know that everybody's been there. And if you've always had a passion to create great things, it's still within your reach. You just have to continually take step by step and move forward and just accept the good with the bad.
Yeah, that reminds me of a quote that resonates with me, and you have to give yourself permission to be great. And that's a John DeMartini quote. And,
Yeah.
It just makes me that much more aware of what Luke and I are able to accomplish. And, honestly, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your successes and your how you've learned how to become who you are today. And I'm just grateful that you took some time with us today.
It was my pleasure to be here, and I'm so thankful for the invite and opportunity to be on today.
Really quickly, I just want to share one of my favorite quotes since everyone's throwing them out there. I listened to a lot of Les Brown, and one of his is, if you fall down, land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that just about wraps up today's episode, Jessica. I want to thank you again for being our guest today.
Thank you so much again.
All right, have a great day.
You do as well.
See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.